This podcast is a part of the More Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Leader Podcast by Pattern Talent, where we interview great leaders and we seek to understand leadership. I'm Brad McDonald.
And I'm Taylor Jessup, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Daily Leader. Super excited for our episode and guest today. I'm going to let Brad introduce our guest in just a moment. But before we get going here, we always like to give a few shout outs to those who have helped us make this happen. So special cheers to the department. Thank you, department. Brad's got that. There it is. Yep, we got our cheers all the way around. Look at that. Awesome, Ty. Thank you, sir. Department, April Norris, if you're interested in our music, which sounds fantastic, check her out in the show notes, as well as Jesus with Video Pilot, who does all of our editing needs. And, of course, Ellijay, lighting a small fire in your home. She does candles. They're fantastic. Check it out. That's my wife. She hates when I say that, so I say it nonetheless. So we are very excited today, and we're grateful that you've come on this journey with us. If you have been on this journey with us for some time, or today's your first day, we'd love it if you'd take a minute, just hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out, and we'd be deeply, deeply grateful. So with that, Brad, I'm excited. It's been a little bit here. I'm excited to dive in. I know you have a really good personal connection here. For those who are listening, I've got my journal here and my notepad because I'm excited and ready to go today, and just excited to see what we can learn and be curious about. So you want to go ahead and introduce our guest on the show today?
I'd love to, Taylor. Thank you. Solid introduction there. 1% better every time. 1%. I love it.
Yeah, we'll be at 300% better in no time. So.
That's right. Today is really exciting for me because I have the opportunity to get to share with this audience someone who, as I've reflected, has had an outsized impact on me for what little time we've been able to spend together. And I'm always fascinated by relationships like that. People who make such good use of their words, who are encouraging, who are intentional, who are thoughtful about the things they say, and who are always offering wisdom to those that they meet and encounter. And Ty Yokum, our guest today, is a great example of that. Not someone I've had the opportunity to spend just countless hours with, but someone who, when I have spent time with, has had a very big impact on me. And so Ty and I met through his son, Nick. Hey there, Nick, if you're listening, be proud of your dad. He's a good man. But when Nick came to Impact 360 Institute, which is an organization where my wife and I served for some time, Ty, his son Nick, was a student there. And so Ty happened to be serving at that time in the midst of a 27-year career with Chick-fil-A as a management consultant, as a trainer, as a facilitator for primarily field staff, operators, team members, but also some corporate staff as well at the support center. And so what I love about Ty is his mission in life is all centered around helping other people, encouraging them, coaching them, developing them as leaders, and to understand what their purpose is and the potential that they have. And that resonates so much with Taylor and I. And so now he's serving as a facilitator for Measured Results Consulting, and he'll be able to share some of that with us today. But Ty, now that I've given that kind of quick rundown on how we know each other and what you've meant to me, can you give us a little bit of a bio and tell us a little bit of your story?
Sure, Brad. Hey, by the way, thanks for that very generous introduction. Checks in the mail on that, Brad.
Thank you.
I forget what we agreed to, but I think I added a little tip for you.
Worth every penny, huh?
You just add a zero, Ty, and we'll be good.
So, hey, let me just start. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, educated there, went to Tulane University, graduated from Tulane. And in the 70s, there wasn't a whole lot going on in Louisiana. So I made the move 1979 to Atlanta, Georgia. And it was there that I really would say began my career. So I spent about 13, 14 years in sales and management. And then in 1991, that's when God blessed me beyond what I ever could deserve, because that's when I landed a position with Chick-fil-A. I have two biological sons, and then I have three sons through marriage that I love and cherish. I live in Ellijay, Georgia now, which is, I got out of Dodge. I got out of the craziness of Atlanta and moved up here to God's country in the North Georgia mountains.
That's awesome.
As you had alluded to, Brad, I spent 27 years with Chick-fil-A corporate, having the pleasure of working with operators and their teams and also corporate staff. Um, but now I find myself, after retiring in 2018, doing a little bit of what I've always enjoyed doing without the pressure, and that's just helping leaders grow. So here I am, ready to serve.
Well, one of my favorite things about you, Ty, is your jambalaya. So I remember at least on two occasions having the opportunity there at Chick-fil-A Corporate Support Center when I was officing there at that time in the terrace level, which I think has since become something very different. But getting to enjoy your jambalaya, give us the rundown on how you make jambalaya for 1,500 people.
Yeah, let me give you a quick behind the scenes story. When I was about 15, my mother had a heart attack, and she was incapacitated to the extent that she just wasn't able to cook. And she was kind of like the lifeblood for the family. You know, it's about 6 kids here. So um, my dad decided he would step in and fulfill that duty. Well, that was a huge mistake because my dad was a welder. So everything he cooked was kind of like he welded. It was carbonized. It was burned, you know. But that's what he knew. And the only thing he knew how to make was scrambled eggs with onions. So after about 3 servings of that, I went to my mom and said, "Mom, you got to help me. Um, I need to learn how to cook what you cook because Dad's going to kill us." Um,
That's awesome.
so from that point on, from the time I was about 15 or 16, I learned a passion of mine, which was a passion of my mom's, which was to cook and to feel comfortable in the kitchen. So a lot of what I cook is stuff I learned from her, and like her, I love serving up love. You know,
Mm,
it's food
yeah.
made with love, and so when they told me I could cook for the staff at Chick-fil-A and they would pay me to do it, I went, "Where do I sign up?" So yeah, that's how it all came about.
That wasn't, just to be clear, that wasn't just like, because when I hear that, I'm thinking about, maybe 30, 40 people that you're cooking for. But this was a much larger endeavor, right?
Yeah. Well, and that was a real labor of love because I got a chance to go back and work in the kitchen. We would serve somewhere between 12 and 1,500 people
Yeah.
for lunch. Like I had shared with you guys earlier, it was really like a scene out of Macbeth because here I was stirring the pot
Yep.
with a 3 foot aluminum paddle. Um, it was
That is,
pretty funny. Yeah. But,
that's,
I
yeah.
always had my Zydeco music in the background to keep me company. And we would play that as people would come through the serving line. And I think it kind of brightened folks' day. At least I like to think that way.
That's awesome.
I know I needed a nap after the amount of jambalaya I consumed. So I'm not sure how productive the staff was at the end of that lunch period.
Yeah, the rice that was in the jambalaya has a tendency to settle in your stomach a while.
Just a
Yeah,
little.
and it'll close your eyes in a hurry, that's for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some
The
good
Tabasco is the only thing that keeps you awake.
some good jambalaya naps. Chick-fil-A's productivity overall as a company just tanked those afternoons. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, Ty, as we're getting to know yours, I'm in particular getting to know you here. One of the things that I think is so important, right, is you're shaping so many people and their lives and what that looks like. So I'd love to know, who are some of the leaders and mentors or authors that have really shaped your experience and the way that you lead other
Yeah.
people?
The first guy that comes to mind is a guy whose grass I used to cut as a young man, Mr. Ben Wasserstrom. He was like a surrogate father to me.
Hmm.
And what I loved about Mr. Wasserstrom was his generosity. So he taught me early on to be generous. Um, he and his wife had no children. He was a lawyer, and just a man of great integrity. And he impressed upon me early on the importance of being that way, to be a person of character, good character. Um, and I love the guy. He really was like a second father to me. He would have conversations with me. He would share his wisdom with me, and that shaped me early on. Matter of fact, I wanted to be a lawyer just like he was, but I wasn't smart enough.
That's great. That's
So
great.
that was one guy.
Yeah.
And then I would say when I came to Christ late in life, I was about 32 years old. Um, there was a couples minister that I met, a guy by the name of Tom Miller, and Tom impressed upon me the importance of faith, um, and walking the talk, not just talking, but being able to walk the talk. And I love Tom because he had a real laid back style. But I think he taught me too to embrace my faith and not the world.
Hmm.
Because I certainly had been a man of the world. Uh, from the time that I left home, which was around 19, 20 years old, to the time that I started going back to church. I lived in the land of the Philistines, brother, and I did all the craziness of the world that you can possibly imagine. There was this emptiness that I had inside. So when I met Tom, he was very merciful and very giving, but he showed me the way. And honestly, I'm indebted to him. He was just a great mentor for me.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. I love the gratitude and faith coming through. And one of the things that I find, super interesting is, kind of the idea that more so relationships shape our lives, right?
Yeah.
More than, hey, let me tell you about this book that really impacted me with, the way that I lead, or, a story that really impacted me for my life came from this book. But
Yeah.
instead it's really through relationships that we kind of have transformational ability to lead and pass that on in our lives, which
Well said. Well said, Taylor. Yeah. I do think that's how lives are changed, through relationships. A book may strike a chord in you. You may um, listen to a podcast, or something may stir you, but ultimately, I think it's the relationships that truly
mm,
transform us.
yeah, yeah, we get to kind of fill ourselves up with all this data and good things, right? But kind of like you said with your faith, when you actually see it put into action, when you
Yeah.
see somebody then who didn't just read a book on gratitude, but lived out gratitude, that
Mm,
makes you, go, man, I want to be more like that person. Like, how
yeah.
do I do that with all of my employees, with those people that come in contact with me? So I just think that that's really neat. I love the story. I love the story of the jambalaya. I love the picture, because I wasn't there. That comes to my mind of this, giant paddle that you're stirring jambalaya with and rice, and just thinking about, coming from the restaurant world, the chaos of that kitchen trying to feed
Oh,
1,500 people lunch, right? Which is a beautiful, beautiful story. What are some of, like, I want to hear some more stories about some
ah,
experiences that have
ah,
shaped your perspective on leadership. So you
yeah.
have some wins, losses, like you're like,
Mhm.
man, here's some key stories that have really shaped how I now lead people.
Well, I love that question. So, the first one that comes to mind is an encounter that I had with Truett Cathy, who is the founder of Chick-fil-A. I had an experience like you, Taylor. I had done some mission work, and on one particular trip, I had gone to Ukraine, to Kiev, and
Mm.
met a couple there that was doing Christian work, if you will. Um, the couple decided that, and their names were Nick and Maya. I can't pronounce their last name. It's just too many too many consonants and not any
Yep.
vowels.
Just Nick and
But
Maya.
Nick and Maya, let's just stick with Nick and Maya. So anyhow, they planned a trip to Atlanta, and they said, we have looked into Chick-fil-A, and we really would love to meet Mr. Cathy. Could you arrange that? And I said, well, let me tell you, you talking to the bottom rung of the ladder here. If he's in though, and he doesn't have any pressing appointments, I know he'll visit with you because that's just the kind of guy he is. Let me see what I can do and we'll figure it out. So, as fate would have it,
Hmm.
he happened to be in the office the day they came to visit. Well, we went up to the fifth floor where his office was. And like Truett, just in Truett style, he came out of his office and he he immediately said, "Hey, my name's Truett Cathy. Welcome to Chick-fil-A." And he shook their hands, and then he immediately said to them, he goes, "Hey, have you ever had a book? I got a book for you here. Have you ever had a book where once you picked it up, you couldn't put it down?" They said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Well, this ain't one of them."
That's awesome.
That was true with Kathy. He was just the most genuine person and the most generous person.
Hmm.
But he showed me in that moment that really we should learn to love everyone, even folks that are strangers to us. We should be generous to people. And that was something that Truett was his entire life before he became a billionaire. This guy was generous with the community around him.
Hmm.
And that impressed upon me. Here's a guy who's a billionaire and he's going to have audience with people he didn't even
Hmm.
know. And even gave him a copy of his book that maybe wasn't worth reading, according to
Yeah.
him.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. I like that. Often I think that I will be generous when I've arrived. So when this is just my own, like, so we'll just get real for a minute. When I arrive and when I am a billionaire, then I will be rich,
Yeah,
and I will give right at that point.
yeah.
So it's great to hear about somebody who became a billionaire, but really that sense of generosity was there from before that, right?
It
I
was. It was. I heard stories of when he opened up his very first restaurant in 1946 with his brother. That, and this was when Truett really had nothing. He and his brother had done service in the Army in World War II. So this is post World War II. And they built their dwarf grill in Hapeville, Georgia, with some borrowed money and some used nails, believe it or not. Building supplies were in such short supply
Yeah.
that they literally had used nails to build this restaurant.
Hmm.
But one of the practices that he started early on was to give food away to the folks in his community that needed it. So at the end of a day, when he had extra food that that was left over from the day's work, he would bag it up and give it to his neighbors.
Hmm.
And his sons remember that. They will tell you that he was generous even back then.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, Taylor, is we have a tendency. I know I have a tendency to kind of hold on to things like this that
Yeah.
I own, and yet what Truett showed me is this is the way it should be.
Yeah.
Anything that we have, we're simply stewards of. We don't really own it.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then let's have an open hand rather than a closed fist.
Yeah. Yeah. And leaders give when it's not necessarily easy to give, right? Everybody can
The
give
good
when
leaders,
it's the
the
good
good
leaders.
leaders,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
The bad ones like to shine in the spotlight
Mm.
and take as much as they can get.
That's such a great segue, Ty, hearing you distinguish between those two things. As you reflect on, the two men that you mentioned earlier in your life, as well as your time with Truett, what is leadership? How did
Mm,
you come to your own definition of what
yeah,
leadership is and how it works?
yeah. So I, if I could put it in one word, I would say it's influence. Now, when I say influence, it could either be good or bad, right? But let's just assume that the leadership we're talking about is positive influence. When I referred to Mr. Wasserstrom and Tom Miller and Truett, they were all positive influencers. And so I think leadership is very much about influence. I also think that sometimes we think leadership, and this comes from Simon Sinek, who I love as an author. He says that leadership is not about being in charge. The world would say leadership is about the guy that's at the top and he's the boss. But Cynic says it's not about being in charge, it's about being there for those that are in your charge. I love that. See, so to me, leadership is about influence, but it's also about those that you lead. It's not about you.
In light of that, why are there so many bad leaders?
the $1 million question, right? So here's what I would say: bad leaders care about themselves, they don't care about those that they lead. Bad leaders are going to get as much as they can for themselves.
Hmm.
In other words, they're influenced by the world. The world is this big sucking magnet that wants you to lead the way it wants you to lead, which is totally devoid of other people. It's about power, it's about fame, it's about fortune. Uh, let's sum it up in one word: success.
Hmm.
That's the big attraction for bad leaders: success. Whereas somebody who's really influential in a positive, their motivation is significance. There's such a difference between those two things. And to me, significance is about what sort of positive influence were you on those that you led. It's about caring about those that are in your charge instead of being in charge. So bad leaders are all about being in charge. Good leaders are about caring about those that are in their charge.
And why I think this leads into the next question. If organizations, especially one like Chick-fil-A, who their brand is, I think Drew Kathy said, hey, listen, we're in the people business and we sell
Mhm.
chicken. One of my reflections on my exposure to Chick-fil-A, both from the corporate philanthropic perspective as well as from the restaurant perspective, is that they're not just in the people business, they're in the leadership development business,
Big
because
time.
it's so much a part of the culture of Chick-fil-A, not only at the support center, but also from unit to unit. And as we work with Chick-fil-A clients, we see it. I know you do with yours, I do with mine. It's pervasive, even down to the team member level. Leadership
Yeah.
development is happening. And that has to be one of the reasons why they're so wildly successful.
Yeah. And Brad, to that end, I would say that it was a true gift for me to be able to start working there because I honestly, my career had taken me through different companies and I saw different styles of leadership. But a lot of what I saw were people who were in charge. When I stepped in the lobby of the Chick-fil-A corporate support center, there was something different about it from the get-go. People were very welcoming. They really cared about me as an individual. And my career kind of speaks to that because my first 5 years, I was a business consultant. Okay, so what the heck is that? Well, it's the guy who really has responsibility for helping the Chick-fil-A restaurants grow. That's really what my job was. And I would tell you that that was a good job. It helped me understand the inner workings of Chick-fil-A from an operational standpoint. But what happened was really interesting. The guy that hired me, guy by the name of Sonny Newton, saw something in me that said, you need to be in a different place at the support center. You need to be training people. And it was wise because I really didn't have any previous Chick-fil-A experience when I hired on. So there were a lot of technical things that I needed to learn, and training supplied that. But he also saw that I had a passion for developing people, which I could do monumentally better in the role as a trainer than as a business consultant.
Hmm.
And so he graciously said to me, I think you should go and spend a couple of years in the training department and see what happens so you can get some of this technical expertise. See, that's good leadership. If he was if he was the guy in charge, he would have just said, "Okay, we're going to leave you here and we're going to make you better and just stick it out. You're on my team, and I want you on my team." But unselfishly, he saw that I had potential elsewhere, and honestly, he was dead on right because I enjoyed being a business consultant, but I loved being a trainer.
Hmm.
Flesh out some of those distinctions. Tell us
Oh,
about what training is, and what maybe we can get to this as well, Ty. What does it mean to be a facilitator? Because I think
yeah,
you have some distinctions that I think are really important for us as leaders to understand. The
yeah.
nuance is important.
Well, facilitation by the root word facile means, in Spanish, it's easy, right? It means easy. A facilitator's job truly is to, first of all, understand where the group wants to go. What's the end objective of where it is that they need to go? If you're teaching, then you have objectives, which are your goals. That's the end in mind. If you're facilitating a meeting, then there is an objective to the meeting. What's the end goal that you're
Hmm.
trying to achieve in the meeting?
Sure.
So really what the facilitator's job is to make it easy for them to reach their goal. That's that's putting it about as succinctly as I can.
That's what I need. That's what I need. Okay, so in your career, not all the organizations you worked for were at the level of Chick-fil-A regarding leadership development, but they
Mm,
knew, they had to have known how important it was.
sure.
So why, if leadership development is so important, and we all know it is, why do organizations neglect it so severely?
Yeah, well, this is my opinion. I do believe that many organizations see it as profits are more important than people. Training in itself, growth and development costs me money.
Mm,
And that therefore affects the bottom line.
Mm.
When I think it's all turned upside down, because again, remember, if leadership is about influence as opposed and it's not about success, well, people just get it turned upside down. They think profits are the most important thing because that leads you to success. But the truth is, it's not about profits, it's about people. Just like Truett said, we're not in the chicken business, we're in the people business. He got it right from the start. And so I think leaders on the spectrum of being ineffective are those that just worry about success and profits. Whereas those that truly make a difference in the world are those that invest in people. Because after all, it's the people that help achieve the results, isn't it? It's not you as the leader that got the results. It was the people that achieved the results. And if people feel cared for, they're going to work.
Mm.
If they don't feel cared for, then you're going to get what you get.
So, in other words, what actually costs your business more is not developing your people.
I got
that's
to
right.
share this with you. I love this. There was, you know, Chick-fil-A operators are people just like we are. You know, they're not some special um, group of folks that are divinely inspired uh, in their work. Some of them are maybe, but I was having a conversation with this one operator, and he goes, "You trainers, y'all are alike." He goes, "You come in, you tell us we need to train our people," and he goes, "We train them and then they leave." And I go, "Okay, so let me ask you a question. What if you don't train them and they stay?"
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, see, and there's the quandary. If all we care about is the bottom line,
Sure.
then we get what we pay for or don't pay
Yeah.
for. At Chick-fil-A, one of the things we talked about often was the five critical success factors.
And I love
And I
these.
loved it. I
I
loved it
love them.
because the bottom line is it turns things upside down from the way leaders are taught.
That's right.
So it's like a puzzle. And the middle piece of that puzzle is about leadership. We used to call it vision, but it really is leadership. And leadership impacts the other four pieces of the puzzle. So, how leadership sees things, how they envision things, the end in mind, those things are all about leadership, but that's a pivotal piece. So, leadership says, here's where we're going. This is what I'm about. This is what you're about. This is our end in mind. Uh, Join me. And then the other critical piece is people. If you want to achieve this vision, this place where you're going, then you have to hire the right people, put them on the right seat in the bus
Mm.
to help you achieve that vision, those goals that you have. And you have to treat them right. You have to grow them and you have to develop them. I've always felt that when people feel cared for, they will they will fall on a sword for you.
Yeah.
If they don't feel cared for, it's like, well, I don't really matter. But when you show them value and you let them know that they are people of significant value, oh, they'll die. They'll jump on a sword. They
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So you have after people, you find the right people, put them on the right seat of the bus, help engage them so that ultimately they help you achieve your vision. The other piece is quality and customer experience.
Mm.
So you're developing these folks, you're moving them towards the vision, but you got to do it the right way so that your guests, your customers say, wow, I got something for what you're providing me. And I'm coming back. I will return because you did it well.
Mm.
Well, if you do those three things right, then the fruit flows. And the fruit being growth, sales and brand growth, which is another piece of the puzzle. And then the last piece of the puzzle is profits. That's what you yield if you do those first three pieces right.
Mm-hmm.
But
Wow.
see, the successful people, what do they work on first? Profits and sales, because that's success.
Yeah.
But but it's all turned upside down, and Chick-fil-A sort of saw it very differently. Honestly, I think it's why they've thrived, because they get the importance of leadership, they get the importance of people, and they get the importance of quality and customer experience. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Who who even in the fine dining arena says to a guest, if a guest says thank you, the automatic reply is my pleasure. That was genius. And why did that happen? Because Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, said, this needs to happen in our restaurant. We need to honor the people that we're serving and use elevated language to let them know that we care about them.
Mm.
So when they say thank you, we're going to honor them and say, my pleasure. It's crazy, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But that wouldn't have happened unless he had this vision of how that was more important than making a buck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so well said, right? Always putting people before. It's interesting that the byproduct of people first and doing that well can be profits. But when you focus on profits, that doesn't mean that the byproduct is taking care of people well.
Amen, brother.
Right.
Amen. Yeah.
When you were talking, I thought of, I don't know if you guys are Christmas Vacation fans. I watch it every year. Uh,
I
and
love that movie.
yeah, at the end of the movie, I think Cousin Eddie goes and gets steals the boss from the major, Fortune 500 company, whatever the heck it is, drags him down to the house. And, they didn't pay him the Christmas bonuses. And they're all like, oh, that was a boneheaded thing to do. And he's like, sometimes these things look good on paper, but they don't necessarily look good when you see the people that it actually affects.
Yeah, boy.
And when you are right leading the people you are in charge of, when you are caring for them, it is really interesting. I saw this cascading kind of picture when you were talking about it, and what I wrote down was people pour into people, and people pour into more people, and then people pour into more people, and then that can lead to something really neat, right? So if I'm a leader and I'm pouring into my team and I'm developing my team, the byproduct of that is going to be that team is all of a sudden going to be pouring into the other people that are coming in on my team. And if all
Yeah.
those people are pouring into our customers and saying my pleasure and doing those things that we've talked about, and actually they care about those people walking in the door the same way we do, it's a transformational kind of way to lead that has really netted out financially. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, Chick-fil-A is not hurting for cash in that model. They are doing okay, right? So I just think that was really well said. I one of the things that I wonder is we're kind of wrapping up here, but some tangible tools a little bit. So, like this is I want to take it kind of from the head to like, all right, on paper. So, what aspects of the kind of leadership process do you think require formal training? I mean, I know from my experience
Mm,
at Chick-fil-A, kind of the demonstrate, imitate. You talked about elevated language, right? That's a Chick-fil-Aism that has stuck, right? And
yeah.
that is something that we do. So what aspects of that
Yeah.
are really important that we need to be teaching?
Yeah. One of another of the influencers in my life was Mark Miller, who recently retired from the support center. Mark had lots of roles at Chick-fil-A. I think he was hired originally as a warehouse worker and moved in various departments around Chick-fil-A. But I had the pleasure of working with him in training and development for a while. He was our director. And one of the things I loved about Mark is he really was passionate about what great leaders are all about,
Mm.
and had principles to back that up. So I think what Mark impressed upon me was, you know what, um, we can teach leaders skills. We can teach them that, but we can't teach them character.
Mm.
Mm.
And people either come with it or they don't. They either have character or they don't. Good character or bad character, right? They come with that package. So I don't think we can teach them character, but I do think we can teach them skills.
Mm.
And I, this is my best illustration right here. Uh, this is it right here.
Oh, nice.
Um, I can't think of a better symbol of leadership than right here.
Mm.
Yeah.
And for the folks who don't really know what uh, this is this is Jesus washing Peter's feet. You see, and this is so contrary to what the world teaches. We
Right.
don't think that serving is leadership, but I would argue it's the best model of leadership that ever was. See, this was a person of character. This was a person of character that was teaching this guy skills. He was teaching him skills. He was teaching him what was most important, which is really serving those that you lead. And he changed the world because of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's maybe a long answer
No,
to your question.
it's great. I
Fantastic.
mean, it is, hey, be a person of character yourself, right? A
Yes.
is, I've got to own my walk and my talk. Nobody nobody wants to follow. I think somebody said on our podcast recently, hey, our BS meters are up higher than they've ever been, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to follow people that do what they say they're going to do, right? And then go find other people of character, right? So go, when you're doing the
Yes.
talent development, go find them. And then we can figure out all the training processes in between, but those are the people that you want to find. So
Yeah,
uh,
boy.
and easier said than done. We can hopefully have you back for another episode. We can talk all about, hey, what does it look like, details in training? How would we go about finding those people of talent, those people that we can help and that have character and all those kind of things. But any as we're kind of wrapping up here, I know we're kind of butting up against time. Like,
Yeah.
parting words of advice that you would like to share for emerging leaders today that you wish you had? So rewind the clock. I don't know, when did you start your career? Like 5 years ago. I think you just turned 37. Is that right? So
Checks in the mail for you too, Taylor.
all right, there we go. There we go. We're earning our keep today, I
I
guess.
think you get a bigger payday than Brad did.
I certainly hope so. I don't like when Brad beats me at anything. We also talk about healthy competition here. But what
Yeah,
what's some parting advice that you would give?
you know, I would say this, that leaders um, leaders have great responsibility, um, and that responsibility means that you're going to be held to a particular standard. But it really isn't about you. It's about those that you lead. To me, that's the difference between success and significance. And so I think for leaders in our world today, I would say, man, pursue significance, not success, because it's so much better. It's so much more meaningful. And you walk away and you feel like there's really legacy that's left rather than just crumbs. Um, and legacy means so much more than success, so much more. So that's probably the gist of it. I appreciate you guys letting me chat with you today. I've enjoyed the time with you. Um, and I will say this: I'm unashamed about saying this, but I have worked for a group here called Measured Results Consulting that Brad mentioned. Um, and if we can ever help you in any kind of way, if we can ever serve you, if we
Mm.
can ever wash your feet for you, that's what we're about. We do consulting, we do coaching, and we do training. Those are kind of our big threes. But would love to help you any way we can. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know we'll have more information in our show notes. Brad, you want to
I
touch
sure,
base on that as well?
I sure do. Yeah, I just want to mention the URL for those listening too. That's measuredrc.com.
Yes.
Measuredrc.com is where you can find out more about what Ty and his business partners are doing at Measured Results. And Ty, this has been an awesome conversation to hear you reminisce some about those who have influenced you, some about your career, and really just to get, a little bit of that secret sauce, no pun intended, on, what made that 27 years so successful.
Yeah.
And we're grateful to you, and we look forward maybe to in the future getting to have you back again to discuss even in more detail some of what you do as a trainer, as a facilitator, and even just some of the things you offer at Measured Results. So thank you so much again, Taylor. Thank you for your time again, sir. This was a lot of fun today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Pleasure. It
Well,
was so fun.
let me just wrap it up and say it was my pleasure.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
Yes.
Oh, love it. Yes, I'm waiting for the day where we can all get together with 1,500 of our friends, and Ty is going to cook some good jambalaya for all of
Ooh,
us.
what
Yes.
you talking about, my friend? We
Yeah,
pass
that's right.
ourselves a good time. Y'all have a great day, guys. Enjoyed the time with you.